Let's talk to Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas, though, because we want to find out from her how exciting it's going to be tonight. Jennifer, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Let's have a look, first of all, before we begin, with Donald Trump, who was speaking quite late last night. In fact, when we started the show, he was still speaking in Michigan, talking about God.
But just a few months ago, in a beautiful field in Pennsylvania, an assassin tried to stop our great movement, greatest movement in history. But that brush with death did not stop us by any means. It only made us more determined to finish the job that we had only just started. That was not a pleasant day, I will tell you. That was not a pleasant day. But many people say that God saved me in order to save America. Many people, I've seen it so many times.
Donald Trump there saying it was a very unpleasant day. I mean, we forget, I suppose, Jennifer, because the media in America kind of played it down to such an extent that somebody tried to kill him.
Yeah, it's been memory holds, hasn't it? And not just once, but twice.
Yeah.
Remember, there was another assassination attempt after that.
Yeah, but the first guy actually managed to fire a bullet at him.
Yes, of course,
You know.
of course. And, you know, that was crazy. And it was on the front pages for a few days, and then it's gone. And there's been, you know, a few people lost their jobs, but really not much has happened. So, yeah, I think they thought somehow this worked in his favor because his reaction was quite strong. You know, that iconic photo of him standing up afterwards with his fist in the air saying, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the comments, as you've just said, that, you know, there, but, you know, for the grace of God, he's with us. And I think a lot of people do feel that way. You know, in America, we like our God and ironically our guns as well with the Second Amendment. So no, it's not surprising that he would be saying something like that the last night in Michigan.
No, of course. And what are you hearing from the US in terms of, you know, the final push, as it were? The voting, obviously, and the voting sort of in numbers is important. There's been a lot of early voting done. There's been a lot of mail-in voting done as well. What are you hearing?
Yeah, that's true. So just so your listeners know, we've had about 78 million people vote early, which is, you know, an extraordinary large amount.
It's a lot bigger than normal, isn't it?
It is. And part of that is because you'll remember in 2020, Donald Trump mistakenly said, don't early vote, don't do the mail-in ballots, go on the day. And this year, they totally learned from their mistakes and learned from, quite frankly, how well the Democrats are at getting out the early vote. So they told people to vote early, and people have come out. Now, whether or not that will cannibalize the vote on the day, we won't know until people get out and vote tonight. But that can be said, same thing on the Democrat side. You know, they're saying tons of women have come out and vote. That could also cannibalize their on-the-day voting.
Yeah, OK. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump said in the sort of last thing in Michigan.
But we don't have to settle for weakness and incompetence and decline and decay. That's a nice word, decay. That's what's happened. That's a nice word, decay. Can you imagine? And nobody will question it because it's true. With your vote tomorrow, we can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, indeed the world, to new heights of glory.
How confident are the Republicans today, shall we say, because so much depends upon, as you say, the numbers of people that get out to vote, the places where they go out to vote. I hear it's too close to call, but I also hear it could be a kind of a hidden landslide that we haven't really quite prepared for.
Well, look, let's hope it is a hidden landslide. Obviously, I'm biased. I want Trump to win. But even if he does not win, I hope it's a landslide on the other side. So we have a decisive mandate on one side or the other. But you're right. The polls are incredibly close. There were a few outliers over the weekend. You had Iowa, went in Kamala Harris's favor. But you then had Emerson that went up Trump, 10 points in that. So too close to call, most of them within the margin of error. So it all depends on turnout. However, the momentum is without a doubt in Trump's favor. You'll see last night, Joe Rogan, with over 30 million viewers, came out and backed him.
Yeah.
His main reason was really, censorship. And he was speaking to Elon, and censorship was a big issue, as you'll recall, in the U.S. 2020 presidential election. A lot of things had been suppressed. And this time we're hearing, more honest. I mean, there's still a little bit of, cutting clips and everything, but for the most part, there's less, I'd like to say, censorship going into this election.
Well, yeah, there is. And Elon Musk, of course, as you say, very, very strong on that. Let's have a look at what he had to say last night on Joe Rogan's show.
If the Dems win this election, they will legalize enough illegals to turn the swing states, and everywhere will be like California. There will be no escape.
That is so insane.
This is the final. This is it. This is the last chance.
Has anybody tried
and
to
I
push
just want
back?
to go out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. This is the last chance, man.
I mean, it really is one of the biggest elections I think I've ever seen and ever covered in my, long and checkered career sitting here. I'm reminded by Dale from Cambridge. He says, talking about the US election, I remember listening to your early morning show last election, where I remember you saying it really isn't looking good for Joe Biden. Filled me with some hope hearing that, but then we saw more and more of the states go blue. Please don't jinx it again this time. I didn't really jinx it. The point is that I remember speaking last time around about 2 a.m. to Nigel Farage, who was in the White House, actually, with Donald Trump, who at that point was like everybody else, assuming that the numbers looked like Donald Trump had actually won. And, of course, Donald Trump's people, ever since then, have said, well, he kind of did win. It's just that they stole it from him, because he did actually get more votes than he got in 2016, and he still lost. He got 80 million votes, and he still lost to Joe Biden, which a lot of people have found very difficult to swallow. And I'm not saying that it was stolen from him. I'm not saying that, but that's what they said.
You're right. There have been a lot of people who have said that. And, whether you believe that or not, the good thing is the Republicans have, as we like to say in the U.S., lawyered up. And they've got a before, during, and after plan to just maintain the integrity of these elections. So something like that, is closely watched. Now, just quickly on Elon's comment, he's not wrong. I mean, why else would the second Biden and Harris get into office? Would they rip up Trump's very effective border policies to prevent illegal people from coming through the border? The only reason is they're trying to change sort of the electoral layout of the country, and it's a big risk. And as much as I love my home state of California, it is a lesson in perhaps progressive leftist policies gone wrong.
Right. And is it likely that I've read a lot about it, but I haven't read anything definitive that it's going to have an effect, that some of these illegal migrants aren't being given the vote?
Well, we know in, again, my home state of California, they signed a law saying it was illegal for even local counties to require photo ID when you show up to vote, which why would you do that? And they're claiming it's racist and all these sorts of things. So all you have to do is go watch interviews with people who are minorities, and they find that notion that they don't have ID quite insulting. So, as we know, Mike, we need ID for everything else, and certainly not advocating digital ID, but, showing a driver's license when you're going to vote, that's a good idea.
Well, also in this country, you can't vote unless your name's on the electoral roll. I mean, you don't necessarily have to prove that you're that person, but, I mean, do you not even have to have a name on an electoral roll to vote in the US?
Well, they do have certain things. Like they had a couple weeks ago in New York, it was an election. Basically, you could register on that day and then early vote. So I don't know. Did they ask for a driving license? I'm not sure they did. The other thing we had, and thankfully Virginia fought back against it, but Virginia found that over 1,600 people who had self-identified as non-citizens were allowed on the voter roll. And the government of Virginia, not the governor, but the certain courts wanted to keep those people on. Well, those people themselves had said they were illegal. So in the end, Virginia won, so we got those people off the roll. But another incident of an illegal Chinese man who got caught voting illegally. And then they said, well, we've got to count your vote because it's already been accepted, which is insane.
It is insane, isn't it? So we've got, I think, Donald Trump tonight in Mar-a-Lago. He's going to be watching the result anxiously, I dare say, from his home in Florida. Kamala Harris, is she going to be in the White House with Tim Walz?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure of their plans. I would imagine they are, or sometimes they get a hotel. It completely depends. I wasn't invited to that party.
No, quite. But I am under the impression that Washington, D.C. is being boarded up and is going to have National Guard people around and about in the city just in case there's any trouble.
Yeah, I think I've heard that as well. I think they started to do that last time, too. I mean, remember the 2020 election came after that terrible summer we had of all those Antifa, far-left, BLM protests. So, yeah, unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of these federal buildings do need to get boarded up on big days like this.
Yeah. And what's your prediction for tonight, Jennifer? I know it's a difficult one to call, but what do you think will happen?
I think President Trump will win again. And I hope he wins by a landslide for obvious reasons. But the faster we know tonight, the better. The one state I'd say to look out for is probably Virginia.
Yeah.
They come in early. It did go for Biden and Clinton prior to that. But if we're going to see some sort of a shift, that's the one to look out for. But,
Okay.
you know, the big number is 270. So once we get there, we're done.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking out for Virginia as well as all the other states as well tonight. Jennifer, have a good evening. Thank you very much indeed. Jennifer Ewing, Republicans Overseas. We might be talking to you later on, I dare say.